Making It Personal with Bishop William Joensen on Iowa Catholic Radio and iowacatholicradio.com.
Welcome to Making It Personal with Bishop Joensen. I'm Liam Dale, seminarian with the Diocese of Des Moines. On today's show, we're going to be talking about the patriotic arm of service with the St. Francis Knights of Columbus. Today, our guest is St. Francis Knight Mark Lyle, volunteer coordinator, who will tell us all about the Knights, 11 years of volunteer service to Veteran Cemetery in Van Meter. But before we get to today's interview, let's find out what's on the bishop's mind.
Well, good morning, Liam. Hey, is there a little decompression when you step away from the kind of rule of life of a seminary? You have to kind of create that yourself, and has that gone well for you in the summer months here in transition?
Yeah, I think that's an interesting transition, and I had to sort of that was kind of like a rock hitting me the first summer. But luckily I was surrounded by Catholic youth camp, and that was a good environment. But I'm kind of finding myself on my own, and that's been a new challenge, but I think I'm figuring it out a couple weeks in now. Okay, your family giving you space for prayer and things like that, or maybe even joining you a little bit, huh? Yeah. Liturgy of the Hours and other things like that. So, well, yeah, I don't know, Catholic youth camp, that sounds like ordered chaos. I don't know how anyone could have a stable routine, but I do know they have daily mass there among the staff and everything. So, well, we're very much conscious of the Eucharist as we approach the Feast of Corpus Christi on Sunday, which really is the official kickoff for the Eucharistic revival of our U.S. bishops, the kind of 3-year process to try and really activate Eucharistic faith and to bring, hopefully attract many to come back to center their hearts, their lives on the Blessed Sacrament. Obviously, many of the processions, I'll be privileged to preside at the Mass and procession at St. Anthony's on Sunday, but we recognize various events that are part of that as well. And kind of holding up to us, Blessed Carlo Acutis and St. Manuel Gonzalez Garcia, two of the saints that are kind of helped us to lift our sights and draw inspiration from them. Carlo, the teenager, kind of a computer geek, but died prematurely, but really focused on Eucharistic miracles and is really just, I think, really energized Eucharistic faith. And then, of course, his body available on display again in Assisi. So obviously people, the great saints, St. Francis and St. Clare in Assisi, but now Blessed Carlo as well. And so I think that's going to be a real privilege, and hopefully we'll be able to take our Catholic Foundation pilgrimage group in October to take that in also. So USCCB spring meeting of bishops, kind of late spring, I think, to have that in June. But Archbishop Anthony Fisher of Sydney, every 3 years the bishops kind of go on retreat. So we just concluded that this week, and it was good to be together as brothers and deepen our unity with each other and all that we're doing in that regard. Thinking of bishops, congratulations to Bishop Robert Barron coming back to the Midwest. This Chicago boy, obviously auxiliary bishop of Los Angeles out in the Santa Barbara region, but now named bishop, 9th bishop of Winona, Rochester. So he's going to be there just to the north of us and bringing all his evangelical fervor, his insights, and his ability to really engage the culture. And so I think the intersection of science and faith, and where better than that, the kind of medical epicenter of the Mayo Clinic and all the professionals that are part of that. So his ministry in the healing arts and all that he's about, fine send-off to his predecessor, Bishop John Quinn, with whom I feel a certain kinship, as he's been head of the higher education working group of the USCCB, kind of looking at the interface of college presidents and bishops, keeping that dialogue going in a positive way, so it's not just when there's some kind of fire to put out or something where there's maybe a point of tension. So I'll be inheriting the baton from him and heading up that working group, and I got some big shoes to fill there, because I think he's just the consummate gentleman, himself a teacher, still teaching at St. Mary's University, freshman, Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 8 a.m. I don't know how he pulled that off. There's no way. I mean, and then just think about the grading that goes with that. So maybe he was light on that side of things. But looking forward to speaking with our guest here. We're going to be taking a quick break. When we return, we'll welcome St. Francis Knight Mark Lyle, who coordinates the Knights of Columbus volunteers at the Veteran Cemetery in Van Meter. You're listening to Making It Personal with Bishop Joensen on Iowa Catholic Radio and the Spirit Catholic Radio Network.
Iowa Catholic Radio welcomes Scotty McCreery with special guest Ali Colleen.
Give myself 5 more
Sunday, July 24th at the Iowa Event Center Ballroom.
I'm in between Friday night wild and quiet Sunday morning.
Tickets and information available at celebratecountry.org. Sponsored by Ball Team.
St. Vincent de Paul helps so many people.
You're right, Zoe. St. Vincent de Paul Executive Director Steve Havman here. We are serving over 32,000 local residents with food, clothing, furniture, and financial assistance annually. We invite you to learn more about all of our life-changing programs that positively impact so many Iowans by simply Googling St. Vincent de Paul of Des Moines. Our mission is to help those in need become self-sufficient through education, community connectedness, and unconditional support. Help us, help others.
Even kids!
Welcome back. I'm Liam Dale, seminarian with the Diocese of Des Moines. On today's show, we're talking about the patriotic arm of service with St. Francis Knights of Columbus. Today, our guest is St. Francis Knight Mark Lyle, who coordinates the many Knights of Columbus volunteers that mow, trim, and do much more at Veterans Seminary. Cemetery.
You got seminary on the mind.
I know.
I set you on that already. Yeah. So, well, the seminary is far from a cemetery, right?
Yes,
or you
absolutely.
get your life buried, but you do get to die to yourself. But anyway, it's good. I have Mark Lyle with us. Welcome. Good to have you on the show. And we were trying to figure out if we've ever been together at liturgy and things. I mean, you're
possibly once or twice.
Man of distinction as a Knight of Columbus, member St. Francis of Assisi Parish, and also a veteran yourself. Can you tell us a little bit, some background? This is making it personal. So, are you native to Central Iowa, or did you?
No,
land here?
I'm from South Dakota originally.
Okay.
I grew up on a farm just halfway between Sioux Falls and Sioux City. It was a rural parish. A good Irish priest, Father O'Lean, was our priest, and I was one of 8 altar servers in the old days, all with Latin Mass. So
okay.
But
so it's still embedded there somewhere. The Latin.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Irish, that happens. I went to South Dakota State University for 4 years. And then when I graduated, I was already drafted into the Army.
So we're talking late 60s here.
I was drafted in 1970.
Okay.
April 70. I graduated drafted in April, graduated in May, went into the Army in August.
Okay.
So I was there for just about a year and a half. That's when Vietnam was winding down, and there was a surplus of troops. So we got an early out, but because of that, I was a veteran.
Okay,
and so
yeah,
it was a good experience.
And you said they saw fit to draw on your college degree and station you in Germany. Then is that right?
A friend of mine who went through basic training heard that they were looking for college graduates when we landed in Frankfurt for some position. So he said, the only time I ever volunteered in my life in the Army was that time. I said, they're looking for college graduates. I volunteered. I was pulled for the 21st Replacement Battalion, which is a coat and tie unit. We never went on training, never had to go KP or any of that. We welcomed all the incoming troops to Europe, 27,000 troops a month. So our job was to welcome these troops and make sure they were assigned to a unit that actually existed. The Pentagon, in their wisdom, many times would send people to units that did not exist.
Is that right? The virtual units.
So our job was to make sure they were assigned to the right unit.
A clerical error?
Oh, yes, by far. The computers are just coming in at the time.
Okay.
So
with the stack of cards and everything else.
Literally, that's how we kept track of people, the stack of cards.
Yeah. So, and this is in the thick of the Cold War, really.
Yeah. 1970. I was there 70 to 72.
Okay. Did you ever make your way to Berlin then, or not?
Yes, went to Berlin. You could go to Berlin and go on either side of the wall, but you had to be in uniform. The only requirement was if you're taking pictures, do not take a picture from East Berlin to West Berlin, anything close to the wall, or take a picture of anyone in a uniform. Why, I don't know.
Yeah.
But it was very, West Berlin was very modern. Right across the wall, within literally half a block, you'd be East Berlin. And there's still bullet holes in the buildings. Very stark.
Mm-hmm. And for some of us who've been privileged to see that, even today with all the renewal and all that's happened there,
very sobering.
Very powerful. But then Iowa, you end up in Iowa.
I had my degree in biological sciences. I went to work for an ag chemical company way back when in 1973, and they moved me from South Dakota to North Dakota to Omaha, Nebraska, finally out to Westport, Connecticut for 3 years. And Connecticut's a nice place to visit, but we wouldn't want to live there for a real long time. So I came back to Iowa in 1980 with a seed company, and eventually went with Pioneer Hybrid, where I retired in 2001.
Just a small little company. Like
Small
Pioneer.
little company, yes. I was a worldwide marketing manager.
Yeah, the only rank I ascended in Pioneer was Tassler. That was all I did for them in the summer.
Did you do a good job?
Yeah, we did, but the one summer I got spoiled. But that's for another time. So I mean, there was a rot in the acres my brothers and I did. So but it was good. I have a great respect for immigrants who are laboring in the fields.
Hard work.
Yeah. So, but also, so the genetic side. So you were on the cutting edge of lots of things there in the genetic world. But and then St. Francis of Assisi. So you kind of got in on the ground floor there.
Well, I went to Sacred Heart for a number of years, and then when Sacred Heart was getting supposedly too big, that St. Francis was formed. I was at the first mass that St. Francis had in the old Holiday Inn out on the interstate. And there were, I think, about 200 people at that mass, and they thought it was going to be a fairly small church, but it kept getting bigger and bigger. I'm not sure what the total attendance is now, but it's huge.
Yeah.
So I've been there since day one.
Wow. Okay. And then also there's just this tug on your heart to take on the Knights of Columbus at St. Francis, seeing the Veteran Cemetery in Van Meter as a worthy project. Yeah, I got involved in the Knights of Columbus through my work with the seed company. We worked with a local printing company, Jim Jordan, who just happened to be a member of the Knights of Columbus. He said, "Mark, you should join the Knights. You're Catholic." So I did, and that was in 1981. I've been in the Knights ever since. And have risen there as well to the fourth degree? I'm fourth degree. Yeah. And I got involved in the mowing project through two gentlemen in our group, Tom Sepik and Vern Heitoff, were in contact with the cemetery. The cemetery was opened in 2008. And at that time... Relatively recent. Very recently. Yeah. The land was donated by Bill Knapp, and the federal government built the cemetery, but then they deeded it over to the state. They built it in 2006, 2007. It was opened in 2008. They deeded it to the state, and at that time, the state had 6 people at the cemetery. There are 3 people in the office and 3 people outside opening and closing graves. Well, on average, they'll have 4 services a day. If you're opening and closing 4 grave sites a day, you don't have time to mow. Mm-hmm. So the Knights got involved. We started mowing out there. This is our 11th year mowing. We'll mow out there usually once a week. Last week was twice a week. The grass crews growing. With all the rain we've received, and it's about 30 to 32 acres we mow. The biggest challenge is mowing around all the headstones. There's more interments, there's more headstones, so it takes 3 people now to just push lawnmowers to go back and forth. Okay, so these are all symmetrically located headstones and things. Yes. And I confess, I have not pulled off yet, but now I'm definitely going to make a pilgrimage visit there. If the wind is out of the south, it's right next to the interstate. But if the wind's from the south, you don't hear the interstate, and it's very, very calm. Okay. Very nice. Yeah, because it would be disruptive otherwise, I think, to have that traffic. So veterans continue to be buried there, and it's their choice, their family's choice to elect where they would like to be. They have to make the choice before they die. They have to prove that they are a veteran and they were discharged and honorable, as an honorable veteran. Mm-hmm. But I've signed up either myself, and one of the common questions I will get from people that are interested say, well, if I sign up here, when I die, where am I going to get buried? My first response is, well, number 1, are you going to be cremated or be in a casket? And number 2, when are you going to die? Because there's no preference, you just go down the line. Okay, you can say, I like kind of under that shady tree there. It doesn't work that way. Okay. And spouses or family members? Spouses or family members, yes. Are eligible or yes. Not? They are? Not family members, just spouse. Spouse, okay. All right, so couples can remain united in their unto eternity, obviously. Their mortal remains in that way. Are the men from St. Francis, the Knights, are they all veterans like yourself, or is that kind of a requirement? Or? Not a requirement. Most of us are veterans. There's a few that are not. We even had one gentleman who was a Knight who lived in Lake Panora, excuse me. Mm-hmm. And he had a friend who wanted to volunteer who was a Lutheran. And since he was volunteered to mow, we had all the Knights of Columbus and one Lutheran out there mowing, and it worked fine. Okay, very ecumenical of you. Yeah, very much so. Yeah. So we have a group of about 20 to 22 people that are on my mailing list as far as when we have the next mow, and I'll just send out an email to everybody, say we're going to mow on Wednesday, and we're going to start at 7 o'clock or 7 a.m. Who can be there? And they reply, and typically a full crew is six people. Mm-hmm. 4 on riders and 2 or 3 walking if we can get 3. Okay. So you're like the captain now, or you know,
I ended up that way. That's why I just call myself the coordinator.
Okay.
So I'll get a word from the cemetery saying, hey, we need to have the grass mowed in the next couple of days. So I'll put the word out to the guys. I normally can get a response from all those who participate within about 6 hours. So I can usually do it fairly quickly. We also help with other events. Recently, last week there was a service for Larry Spencer, the Iowan, the veteran, the POW that passed.
Yes.
It was a very large service, so we helped with traffic control and parking. And we calls for that periodically.
He was one of the longest running POWs.
Yes, 5,521 days.
Wow.
Not quite 7 years.
Yeah.
POW.
It was quite a legacy.
He has a great turnout for the service.
Okay. And does the military always sends representatives? And
yes. We had a number of high-ranking military dignitaries arrive there.
Mm-hmm. Are any of the, I know in certain places, some of the other national cemeteries, like Punch Bowl in Hawaii and things, they're continuing to look at DNA testing to try and identify some of the unidentified remains. And does that happen where they bring somebody back to Van Meter?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay.
They do have a number of interments out there, burials out there, for veterans that have died and that had no family. Hamilton Funeral Home here in town periodically puts a word out to all the funeral homes in Iowa saying, if you have any unclaimed remains of veterans, please let us know, and we'll have a interment service for them. I think the last time they did it was a couple of years ago. I believe they had 20 or 21 urns that they buried.
Okay, so some are coming from the Veterans Home in Marshalltown or not? Is there a connection?
I'm not sure where they come from.
Okay.
Usually, the funeral director will contact the cemetery and set up the interment.
Okay, I'm just venturing into uncharted waters here. So
anyway,
no, I mean, and of course, our Catholic sensibilities, rather than simply spreading the cremains, over water or land, to place them in a spot that's very designated, and even if it's not consecrated land, it's made holy by the sacrifice and the service of those who come there.
And we have all denominations out there, and it's very, very, very soothing, very settling. And for cremains, they can either be in the ground or in a wall.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah. So, I mean, do you got the headphones going, or is this kind of a contemplative exercise for you?
The lawnmowers that we're on are big riding lawnmowers. They're about 50-horse diesel engines screaming right behind your head, so all of us wear hearing protection.
Yeah. But not with Sirius Radio or anything going on there.
Sometimes. You never know.
Listening to Iowa Catholic Radio, perhaps, even.
Could be.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that I would hope that'd be the case. So anyway.
I will bring that up to the gentleman.
Yeah. So does one have to get checked out beforehand to make sure, or is this kind of like synchronized mowing where, there's a phalanx of mowers going across at the same time?
Most of us that have mowed out there, we there's basic areas each mower will cover. And we have some gentlemen that have mowed there so long we've almost designated their area. Now this is the George's area, this is the Keith area. so people kind of know what areas.
Literally is to avoid turf battles, right? Yeah.
Well, just get it done.
Yeah.
We'll normally start at 7 a.m, and we're normally done by 11:30 to 12 that day, and that's with 6 people.
Okay, that's
so
massive.
We put up about 30 to 33 mows per year. And it's about between 900 and 1,000 volunteer hours a year going to mowing.
Wow.
So
all benefiting, obviously, the individuals, but the state of Iowa.
State of Iowa. I calculated one time we're saving the state about $25,000 a year just in base salary, not including benefits. Mm-hmm. So it's a savings to them because they're with 3 people in the office and three people outside opening and closing graves at 4. They're averaging 4 a day. They don't have time to mow.
Mm-hmm. This is not confession time here, but any accidents that have happened, or is it you have to be careful not to chip the headstones?
Try not to chip the headstones. We have in the past.
Okay.
One gentleman was not real good at his eyesight, and so he chipped one. And invariably the family shows up the next day.
Ooh.
So we replace it.
Mm-hmm. They replace the headstone outright.
Yes.
Okay. Not a little.
They come out of St.
Louis. Plaster or something.
Oh no.
Okay. Oh no. That's impressive. Also involved with the wreath laying that takes place each year?
Yes, that's a big project. The Wreaths Across America started about 27 years ago. There was a wreath company in Maine that many years ago had a surplus of wreaths. And one of the owners, I believe, was a veteran. He said, we should take those down to Arlington. So they put them on a truck. It was 5,000 wreaths. They took them down to Arlington, and Arlington said, that's a pretty good idea. Let's expand it now. This past year, they produced about 2.5 million wreaths. 254,000 of those go to Arlington alone. But they go out through all the cemeteries in the U.S., plus some of them are now going over to France for the cemeteries there. They have this year, it's going to be, I believe, December 17th, and the wreaths are all laid all across the country at the same time. So 12, 11, 10, 9 a.m. across the country. Each family can put a wreath at their headstone of their loved one, or if there's a wall, by the columbarium wall at the same time. And the Knights of Columbus help getting all the wreaths off the truck, because there's about 4,000 wreaths here at Van Meter, 4,000 wreaths off the truck, onto pallets, onto trailers, so we can get them staged properly all around, so that at the end of the service, the families can go get the wreath and put it on the headstone of their loved one.
Oh,
and help with traffic.
Well, logistical coordination. Are there some who don't have families to place them? And
yes.
So is that something that the Knights are doing?
The Knights will do that.
Okay.
We'll see at the end, the headstones that do not have a wreath, we make sure they have one.
Wow. Well, this is a charitable endeavor, and I think very much in the spirit of the fourth degree, combining our civic role as citizens and obviously then citizens of the kingdom of God. Mm-hmm. And so God's blessing on you and your work and your good humor, Mark. This is great. So hope to...
My humor's not quite as great when it's 80 degrees out there and I'm bouncing across the cemeteries. The cemetery is not smooth.
Okay. Well, I encourage our listeners to make a pilgrimage, whether they have a loved one there or not, but to honor our fallen, those who've offered themselves in service to our country, and perhaps some who've made the ultimate sacrifice.
We're going to take a quick break. You're listening to Making It Personal with Bishop Joensen on Iowa Catholic Radio and the Spirit Catholic Radio Network.
Support for Iowa Catholic Radio is provided by the Sarah Vocations Ministry, including the St. Sarah Club of Des Moines and the Sarah Club of Council Bluffs. Sarah is an apostolate of the Worldwide Catholic Church dedicated to fostering and supporting priesthood and religious vocations. Sarahans strive to accomplish their mission through prayer, fellowship, and service to the bishop, priests, sisters, and all in religious formation, and in doing so to increase their own holiness. Learn more at joinsarah.org, joinserra.org. Thank you, Sarahans, for your support of Iowa Catholic Radio.
Hello, this is Steve Ray, Jerusalem Jones. Join me in Iowa Catholic Radio on the journey of a lifetime with our Footprints of God pilgrimage to the Holy Land, November 11th through the 20th, 2023. We'll visit the Church of Nativity where Jesus was born, Nazareth, where he grew up, and the spot where he performed his first public miracle, the Wedding Church of Cana, where couples will also have an opportunity for the renewal of wedding vows. Full itinerary and pricing details at iowacatholicradio.com.
Welcome to Making It Personal with Bishop Joensen. We just finished up with Mark Lyle, who was coordinating St. Francis Knights of Columbus mowing volunteers out at Veterans Cemetery. But now we're back to the bishop's mind.
Which is a scary thing. I think John Malkovich here. No, what a great man. I mean, he's the kind of guy, Mark, you'd love to hang out with. You could easily go on a road trip with him, and either stop to get a donut. What's this place that's so favored by everybody?
Hertz Donuts, yeah.
Hertz Donuts, another Des Moines institution I'm not aware of.
You'll get influenced by it.
I mean, between the chicken or the donuts, what are we going to do here? But no, very much so. Again, thinking about Corpus Christi, that news media attention paid to the grand theft of the tabernacle in the Brooklyn church a few weeks ago, and this precious tabernacle, which worth over $2 million, apparently, with the jewels and everything else, but the Blessed Sacrament that was scattered across the altar as well. And so I think, as much as from a worldly perspective, the precious metals and everything else, it is the priceless gift of the Eucharist. So when Bishop Brennan reconsecrated that church and everything else, tabernacles come and go, but it is Jesus, and ultimately he wants to make a tabernacle in our heart and the great faith that we have. Thinking of people with great faith, we're conscious of Howard Waddle of Audubon, grandfather, his wife Sharon, who's widowed now, and the great love that they have, his great devotion to divine mercy, and the children who are in Nebraska and scattered around, but Father Mark Waddle, also, who's associated with Madonna House, a native of the diocese. So condolences to them, but a life well lived. He was on the tractor as much as only 6 weeks before his death. So what every farmer, I think, would hope for.
Yeah.
We're awaiting the DOPS decision still. I think, again, we're pre-recording, so we don't know. Any day this might come down. But when we think about, the flashpoints of social tension, but as the NBA finals also wind down, kind of a story there that captures our attention about Steph Curry and his mom and her choices that she faced. Liam?
Yeah, so for those you don't know, Steph Curry's mom had an abortion and had a mother of 3, and she nearly aborted Steph Curry, too, when she was pregnant with him. But she felt moved by the Spirit when she was about to enter the Planned Parenthood clinic. And now we feel the impacts of what she's brought into the world. Steph Curry's a very faithful man. Here's a quote from him. It's, "I pound my chest and point to the sky. It symbolizes that I have a heart for God. I do it every time I step on the court as a reminder for who I'm playing for." And that's, you don't see that a whole lot, but it's just such a great gift to have that sort of model in this environment.
Mm-hmm. Obviously, luminous basketball player, but that he might not even be here, and his 4th child, Sonia. And I think she's even kind of related her story in her memoir, Fierce Love, and the testimony that she gives. And so, again, when we think about, even in the United States, since Roe versus Wade, well over 60 million young lives have never got the chance to realize their potential and their gifts, and how impoverished our society is without, these stories and these people. You don't have to be a superstar basketball player. You may be a mom, a dad, a family member, potential priests, religious, others who would teach us, scientists who would discover new cures for different diseases, people who would help to build our society, farm the land, all those things there, serve our country, serve our church. And so I think not to lose sight of that those real human stories. And Steph Curry, he plays a game with which I'm not familiar, as he can just rain it down from way out beyond the arc and all that is there. But ultimately, his arc and trajectory of his perspective is glorifying God, and ultimately, that gift of life that we can't claim for ourselves in the risen Lord.
This has been another edition of Making It Personal with Bishop Joensen. Thank you to our guests and all of the listeners in Iowa, Nebraska, and Wisconsin, or wherever you may be listening. To Iowa Catholic Radio on the Spirit Catholic Radio Network.
You can hear Making It Personal with Bishop William Joensen every week on Iowa Catholic Radio and iowacatholicradio.com.
Support for Iowa Catholic Radio and Making It Personal is provided by Sarah Vocations Ministry. Learn more at joinserra.org.